Our next guest is running for the governor of Texas. She wants to be the governor of Texas. She's also out with a brand new book. It's a memoir. Wendy Davis is our guest. The book is called Forgetting to Be Afraid. Wendy Davis, welcome to KTRS here in St. Louis.
Good morning, McGraw. Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning.
How do you have time to run a family and run a campaign and then be in the middle of a book tour?
It's kind of the story of my life. I think a lot of women can relate to multitasking.
Forgetting to be afraid. What's the message you want in this book to get out?
The title comes from a Lady Bird Johnson quote. She was asked once how she overcame her shyness to be the leader that she was in so many ways. And she said, sometimes you have to get so wrapped up in something you forget to be afraid. And that's really the story of my life, a story of overcoming many challenges to work on the things that I so passionately care about.
You sort of burst on the scene, what was it, last year during that filibuster. Did you have any idea that filibuster would then propel you into national prominence?
I could never have known that at the time, obviously. But what I saw as a consequence of that day really was an awakening in our state. If you tuned into it at all, what you saw was that thousands of people in our state had converged on the state capitol. And the fact that the people at the end of the evening really were the ones who successfully carried the filibuster over the midnight deadline with their shouts and screams, it was a poignant symbol of what it means for people in our state to involve themselves in public policy and to express their voices.
But ultimately, the bill you were trying to stop ultimately passed, right?
Yes, it did. Just in the last couple of weeks, major provisions of that law were overturned by a federal court. It's on appeal right now. We have had over half of our women's health clinics in the state of Texas closed as a consequence of that bill at this point. One of them reopened with the court's opinion a couple of weeks ago. I think the remainder are awaiting the appeal before they decide what to do.
Wendy Davis is our guest. The book is Forgetting to Be Afraid. Wendy Davis running for Texas governor.
Can you share with our listeners and our viewers, though, what the filibuster was over and the bill and what it had to do with personal reasons for why you were so passionate about it?
Yes, the bill was one that essentially sought to close down reproductive clinics in the state of Texas where women seek abortion care. The provisions, if put in place, we knew would close most of those clinics in the state of Texas. And in fact, if the final provision had been put into place in September, we would have likely only had about 6 clinics left in the entire state of Texas, which you know is huge. My book recounts a very personal journey from being a single mom struggling with no education, finding my way into the place I am in today through education, starting at community college, and also recounts my struggles going through making 2 pregnancy termination decisions. One, when I discovered that I had an ectopic pregnancy, which is in the fallopian tube. It's not viable. It's extremely dangerous to the health of the mother. The second was when my former husband and I discovered that the much-loved, much-wanted daughter that we were carrying, Kate Elise, had a very rare brain abnormality that would not have provided a sustainable life if she had even survived to delivery. We were told she would be in a permanent vegetative state, likely, if she did survive delivery. So we had to make a very difficult decision and felt that the most loving thing that we could do for her was to let her go.
Most people, Wendy Davis, don't think of those examples as abortion, and those things, that's more of a medical something gone wrong with the pregnancy. So when people talk abortion, they don't necessarily think in those terms. Isn't that different than just a more or less general abortion? I don't want this child.
You know, I think that the important point of my story and the stories of so many that I read on the Senate floor that day is that these are uniquely and intimately personal decisions, that the government has no place in making these decisions for women, each of whom are confronting a very difficult decision for a variety of reasons. I would certainly never second guess a woman's decision that I believe should be made with her family and guided by her faith and her doctor. And I just do not believe that the government has a place in that ultimately most private of decisions.
The state of Missouri yesterday just overrode a governor's veto, and they're putting in a 72-hour waiting period for a woman to get an abortion. What's wrong with somebody waiting 72 hours to think about it?
Well, we had a similar law put in place in Texas in the prior legislative session. And part of the issue here is that women who are in situations of having to work, women who are living in poverty, who can ill afford even one visit to the doctor, never mind coming back a few days later. When women have come and confronted that decision, they've made their decision. And oftentimes these laws are being put in place in order to try to throw an obstacle, a hurdle in a woman's way in exercising what is her constitutional right in a very, very difficult circumstance.
The book is called Forgetting to Be Afraid. It's a memoir. Wendy Davis is our guest. How's the campaign going?
The campaign is going very, very well. We are running a massive ground game in the state the size of Texas. You can imagine what that looks like. But we have over 26,000 people who are actively engaged and volunteering in this race. And I believe that a lot of folks who have been tuning out in gubernatorial races and only showing up in the presidentials are very, very tuned into this one. They see the difference between myself and my opponent. They know that I will fight for the hardworking people of this state. And most importantly, they know my passion behind education. They know it is the path that led me to where I am today, and that I believe every single child in our state deserves the same opportunities that I had.
Wendy Davis, the book is Forgetting to Be Afraid. You're running for governor, and the Republican nominee is Greg Abbott, the outgoing Texas Attorney General. Wendy Davis, thanks for checking in. Have a safe trip.
Thank you both. Take care.
7:58 here, Big 5.